الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فقال تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ إِذْ يَتَلَقَّى الْمُتَلَقِّيَانِ عَنِ الْيَمِينِ وَعَنِ الشِّمَالِ قَعِيدٌ مَا يَلْفَظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ صدق الله العظيم. Dear friends, it's a great pleasure for me to be here and to express my views upon a topic that is of rather vital importance for the youngsters of today. That is Islamic perspective of social networking. Before I begin, I would like to pose one open question here. What do you people think that inventions, any invention, is it a neutral value-based entity? Meaning, is an invention just like that, or does it carry some philosophy behind it? Does an invention carry some background of some values, or does an invention carry some morality in itself, or is it totally isolated from it? This is a question. You can think over this. Inshallah, I will be answering this after some while. Now, coming to social network, the definition of social networking, basically when we say social network, we talk about social networking sites and social networking online services. So an online social networking service is defined as a site or a web page for building social relations between people who share common activities or common interests. Basically, it's a platform of bringing people together, bringing people closer online. Now, going into the history of social networking, it's not a very new phenomenon. In fact, going all the way back to 1994, when GeoCities website was launched. Some of you must have heard of it. This was a site, this was just a platform where people would post softwares and exchange ideas. Basically, it was limited to the computer literate elite kind of people. It didn't become very popular, and it was bought over by Yahoo. And after that, after 1994, especially towards 2000, in that period of time, we see that a lot of social networking sites came up. And now we come across names like MySpace, LinkedIn, Orchid, and now more recently Facebook, Twitter. And this is not the end of it. This is just one part of a continuum. As you see, there are other new concepts that are coming into existence regarding social networking. Have you heard of Second Life? Software Second Life? No? That's another new tool. It's a whole new level of virtual reality that is coming up. So this is the basic history. Now in the present day, if we just look at the statistics about it, it says that nearly 47% of adult Americans, they use Facebook. If similar statistics were to be available in India, it would be something like 500 million people using online social networking sites. Of course, India is not that far advanced, but then we can get an idea of the impact of social networking that is there on American population. And now, last year it was reported that during one calendar month, Facebook received 130 million visitors. 130 million, well, that's a huge number. So it's probably a very important topic that we need to be discussing here. And now, before going into social networking, let's just list out a few advantages that we find of the phenomenon of social networking around us. You see, connectivity, being connected with people is a necessity. People want to be connected. They want free flow of ideas. They want to exchange ideas very easily. And this social networking provides us a very good platform of exchanging ideas, of remaining connected with people, with like-minded people. And that has so many advantages. Especially if you see in field of career guidance. If you want someone to guide you regarding your career, you can always meet somebody who has done a similar course, someone who's a senior over the net, and he can give you real life scenarios, what problems he faced, and then he can guide you exactly, perfectly in a particular direction. That's one thing. And then For example, you are writing a competitive examination. You don't know how to prepare for it. There are so many social networking groups that are available. You can go to them, you can look for reviews. In fact, social networking is a very good place for finding out reviews about a product. A new product is launched into the market. You want to know how it is. You can go online. You can discuss with other people. They'll let you know the review, whether it's good or bad, whether it's worth the money or not. So that's another advantage. And then, in my field, I'm a medical doctor. I know that psychologically speaking, there are so many patient support groups where people who suffer from a common disorder, they come together, they discuss, they share their troubles, they share their problems, and this helps them in coping up with the problem itself. So that's another very good advantage of social networking. And then there's this huge advantage of mass connectivity. When you are able to connect a whole lot of people, a huge bulk of people over the internet on one platform, it can have so many applications, so many uses. Now, very recently, I can tell you about the Egyptian and the Tunisian revolution. You must have heard of it. How some people were able to mobilize the opinion of the people in one particular direction. They just created a page saying that democracy has to come and the dictatorship has to be abolished, and a lot of people supported that. And that movement spilled over onto the streets. People gathered onto the streets. People shared information online and they implemented it on the streets, and we see the results. The good results are there for people to see. The Tunisian revolution was a huge success. The Egyptian revolution was also successful in driving away Hosni Mubarak. Now, in this point of time, I'm reminded of one particular joke. You know, Egypt has a history of dictatorial rule, and every dictator was either hanged or shot. So, as a joke, someone said that when Hosni Mubarak died and he went to hell, Anwar Sadat came to him and asked, "Hanged or shot?" Hosni Mubarak replied, "I have been Facebooked." So that's the powerful, public opinion mobilizing medium that we see in Facebook. And closer home, we have seen how Anna Hazare movement was supported by youngsters through the use of Twitter. When you can, when a whole lot of people are thinking on a similar issue, definitely it assumes importance. Even the government has to give in; it has to give importance to it. So that's another huge advantage. And very recently, you must have heard that there was an attempt in Bangalore to bring the La Tomatina festival. Have you heard of this festival? It's a festival in Spain where people throw tomatoes on each other. And it's supposed to be a very fun activity, and Spain earns a lot of tourism revenue based on that. But it's a huge wastage of tomatoes, of course. People throwing tomatoes on each other. The whole city is red with tomatoes. It happens. So some people thought that we would bring this festival into India, and they had a plan of organizing this in one particular hotel in Bangalore. And immediately some conscientious people, they came to know of it. They said that India is a country where 23 million kids die of malnourishment in India every year. And in such a country, if you want to waste food by throwing on each other, then definitely it's a useless activity. And then somebody set up a Facebook page saying that this activity has to be banned. And then it became viral. Everybody started retweeting it on Twitter. Everybody started posting it as their Facebook profiles. And so it happened that the administration came to know of it, and then they banned this particular event. So a particular event was stopped from happening. So this is another advantage that we have seen of social networking sites. And then coming to the field of Islamic dawah, of presenting Islam to people, this is another wonderful, beautiful medium. Basically, on a daily basis, you can update your status, you can post ahadith, you can post the ayahs from the Quran, and then if there are people who are hesitant to come face to face and ask questions about Islam, there are support groups, people can contact, and then people can discuss, share information about Islam. And it's not like this medium has not produced results. There are people who have accepted Islam only through online study, only through chatting, online discussions. So this field of dawah and Islamic activism on the net, it's another huge field in itself. Personally, I have come to know of a few groups on Facebook like Aapka Islam, and then there's another one, Quran My Way to Jannah. Some of you must have, those who are on Facebook must have heard of it. These are very good groups. You can go join them, and there's a huge discussion about Quran, ayat, ahadith and things like that. It's an ocean itself. Alright. So I have spent quite some time on the advantages of social networking that we have seen. But then there's a catch. There's always a catch, isn't it? So I asked you one question. Technology or science or any invention, is it a neutral value based entity, or does it carry some values of its own? What do you think? Are there any opinions on this? What do you think? It carries some value. Definitely. See, when a person invents something, you have to analyze his mindset. You have to analyze what he aspired to achieve through that particular invention. It's a different story altogether that you may use that invention to your advantage. It's possible. But the idea behind the invention will remain. And no matter what you do, that idea of the invention will be used for that idea. Now, when I say social networking, most of you think only about Facebook. I gave you example of so many other sites, but they are not exactly relevant in the Indian context. Now, talking about Facebook, do you know who was the founder of Facebook? Very famous name, anybody? Mark Zuckerberg. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, he is a Jew, alright? And he was a student of the Harvard University. He belonged to a Jewish fraternity. You know, in USA, the Ivy League universities, the prestigious universities, they are called as the Ivy League universities. They have fraternities or groups of different people. So there's one particular group of Jewish people. It's called as Alpha Epsilon Pi. So this Mark Zuckerberg, he is a member of this Alpha Epsilon Pi group. And when I researched on this Alpha Epsilon Pi, I found out that it contains a whole lot of powerful group of people. It contains executives of Walt Disney. It contains people who are in the 20th Century Fox Productions. And then with the coming of Mark Zuckerberg, you can imagine that the tool of mass media, of being able to reach out to people, these are the people who belong to that particular fraternity. And it's very open, it's not a hidden secret, that this Alpha Epsilon Pi group is a very strongly Zionist organization. And it runs an organization called as Friends of Israeli Defense Forces. Now, Israeli Defense Forces are nothing but the armed forces of the state of Israel. It's actually a coincidence that we are talking about the IDF today. What's the date today? Date 18 September. What's the importance of September 18? Anybody? Anybody? Not exactly. Exact date September 18. It's a very important historical event that has happened here, especially in the context of IDF. Alright, I will tell you. Someone? Massacre? Brilliant, that's the answer. Sabra and Shatila massacre that took place in 1982 from September 16 to September 18. It was the Israeli Defense Forces who surrounded the Sabra and Shatila refugee camp, and the Christian phalangists, they attacked and they killed 3,500 Muslim men, women and children. A lot of women were dishonored, a lot of infants were killed. A black page on the history of mankind. IDF was responsible for it. And this, I have digressed a little bit from the topic, but remember, September 16, September 18, these two very important dates. We can never forget that. You know how Holocaust movies are there in Hollywood? They make a lot of movies on Holocaust and how Jews suffered under Hitler. It's a huge propaganda tool. But then if you were to recount the stories that took place during those days in Lebanon, in Beirut, it will be a much more horrorful story. Now coming back to Mark Zuckerberg. Now it's not like he created this whole website on his own. He didn't develop it on his own. There was a very famous movie by name Social Network that came up on the life of Mark Zuckerberg. How he had to face so many lawsuits, so many people claimed that he copied the idea from them. There were a lot of lawsuits and things like that. But finally, you know, this Alpha Epsilon Pi group, it supports Jewish entrepreneurs. It brings them up. It sees to it that they become a force in the market. And true to its name, you can see that over a few years, this Facebook has totally monopolized the market of social networking. 10 years back, 5 years back, most of us were using Orchid. Remember those days? Now nobody uses Orchid. Everybody uses Facebook. How did they do this? Very simple formula. Bring us few celebrities, bring a few popular names, discuss it in the media, everybody becomes attracted towards it, you sign up on it, and that's it. You're enslaved. A very simple formula. And they had the power to do it, they used it, and now we are all victims of it. And now, this is about the sudden success of Facebook and a small profile of Mark Zuckerberg, who is right now, he owns about $13 billion, the youngest billionaire in the world, and the youngest billionaire to $13 billion, Times Person of the Year in 2010, lot of honors this person has received. Alright, and now what is his philosophy of creating Facebook? Very interesting story. To understand the philosophy behind Facebook, you have to go back to the days when it was invented. Mark Zuckerberg, studying in Harvard, you know the kind of atmosphere that is there in American universities. It's all about partying, enjoying, mixed, co-education, those kind of things. And in that atmosphere, Mark Zuckerberg actually initially created a platform called Face Mash, where people would bring two photos together and compare who is better, who's good looking, who's better looking, things like that. Basically, it was only intended for having fun for teenagers, for rebellious teenagers to have fun in college. That was the principle behind Facebook. And now, no matter what good uses you put Facebook to, this particular use of Facebook, of rebellious teenagers using it for having fun, that particular use is going to remain. That's the philosophy behind Facebook. You can't take it away. Alright, remember this point. And now coming back to the ill effects of social networking, there are again quite a few. First, I would start with a few well-known ones. There is a phenomenon called as trolling on Facebook. TROLLING, trolling, in which people, they pass bad comments about a person, they bully him, they speak ill of him, and this person gets depressed. That's a small phenomenon called as trolling, or also called as cyberbullying, where a few group of friends victimize one person, criticize his looks, criticize his actions, tell him what kind of a loser he is, and things like that. And some people who are very sensitive, some children are sensitive, they take it very seriously, and this has resulted in a few suicides, this has resulted in a few deaths. In fact, I can quote a few cases that have happened in USA where 13-year-old, 11-year-old kids, they were driven to committing suicide because their friends spoke bad about them on Facebook or on MySpace. These things have happened. And closer home, we know that there have been so many cases associated with Orkut. Orkut was another horrible platform. There was no privacy. People could post anything they want, and anybody can view what people have posted on it. And because of that, so many people have lost their lives. I would like to remind you of one particular famous case that happened in 2007. The Adnan Patrawala case, you must have heard of it. It occupied headlines for about a week, in which one very rich businessman's son, he was trapped, he was kidnapped, and he was murdered by people who used Orkut as a means of trapping him. It's happened. It's there in history. And now, coming to other problems of Facebook. Now, I have said that the philosophy behind Facebook was the college atmosphere. And when I talk about the ills of Facebook, let me correlate it with the Islamic principles straight away. So biggest problem on Facebook is it's unlimited. There is no one to control what you're going to do on it. There's no one who's going to stop you if you're doing something that is wrong. And teenage especially is a very bad time to be on Facebook. Because this is the time when you are rebellious, you want to experiment with things, you want to go into new things, you want to try things out. This is a very bad time to be on Facebook, where you have got a chance of doing everything. Especially, let me be very frank when I speak, people actually search for girls, people search for friendships on Facebook, and they add them onto the friends list, and then they start chatting with them, and God knows what happens. The principle of Islam is very clear in this regard. Quran tells us to stay away from anything that is fahish, anything that is immoral, whether it is open or whether it's secret. There is no compromise. Open deeds, secret deeds, equally banned, equally haram. And talking about the gaze, about looking at the members of opposite sex, Quran is very clear on this. خُلِّ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. Tell the people who believe that they should lower their gaze, that they should guard their gazes. وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجُهُمْ, and they should safeguard their chastity, they should safeguard their modesty. These are the principles of Islam. Now, when you look at this in this context, there's a huge disparity. Look where our youngsters are going and where the teachings of Islam take us. And then another very common ill on social networking sites is people gossip a lot. People talk about irrelevant things, unnecessary things, and then they waste time. And then this wasting time talking about unnecessary things, it's called as laghu in Arabic. Allah said in the Quran, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The successful are the Muslims. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. They are the ones who have, khushu' and khuzu, who have the fear of Allah in their salat. And the second commandment is وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. And these are the people who avoid laghu, who avoid everything that is gossip, who avoid every discussion that is useless. So this is laghu. And the purpose of this Facebook was to discuss laghu, was to discuss people, was to compare who is better looking, who is not so good looking, things like that. And look at this in the context of laghu, which is a very bad thing as far as Islam is concerned. And then we have a very bad trend, especially in India, in junior colleges and professional colleges, from what I have seen, that people would gather, they would create a page, they would create a batch page where all the classmates gather in one place, and guess what is the most common topic of discussion? What's the most common topic of discussion? When 4 classmates who have nothing to do come together and discuss, they discuss about lecturers, they discuss about their teachers, they make fun of them, you know, they keep nicknames. Talking about nicknames, talking about making fun of people, it's a very despicable thing in the side of Islam. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin asa an yakunu khayran minkum. O ye who believe, let not a group of people make fun of another group of people among you. And then another place Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَلَا تَنَابُزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't blame each other, don't put unnecessary blames on people. وَلَا تَنَابُزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. And don't call each other by nicknames, don't use bad names for each other. And this is exactly what is happening. And then after some time Allah Ta'ala says, if people would actually guard their gazes and be modest, in Surah Nur Allah Ta'ala says, ذَلِكَ أَسْكَى لَهُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا يَصْنَعُونَ. If you guard your gazes, if you are modest, if you control yourself, this is what is purification. This is what is purity in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah khabirun bima yasna'un, and Allah Ta'ala is well aware of that which you earn. This is the ayat of the Quran. And now coming to other problems of social networking usage, a research has been done in University of California. I'm not able to remember the name of the researcher. But then they have analyzed the psychosocial and the psychological problem among the people who use Facebook and other similar sites a lot. They have found problems ranging from different angles. On one side, they have seen that children, especially teenagers, who use Facebook a lot, who post a lot of their photographs, show themselves enjoying and things like that, they become selfish. They become aggressive. They become self-centered. They give self-importance to themselves. And then we know, when you start becoming self-centered and selfish, pride starts to develop in your heart. And pride is a very bad thing. Pride is a very bad thing. What did Huzur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say about pride? That Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala says in a hadith Qudsi, Al-Kibriya'u ridai wal azmatu izari. That pride is my cloak and greatness is my tahban. So these are the clothing of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. And these things, pride and greatness, these suit only Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. These are not the attributes that human beings should take upon themselves. And this pride, self-centeredness is developing among teenagers who are using this thing. On another side, we have seen there are reports of people who are not able to have similar lifestyle as other people, who see their friends posting nice photographs of them going out, enjoying, wearing expensive clothes, going out to expensive restaurants, enjoying in different ways. And when some people are not able to get that, they become anxious, they become depressed, they become antisocial, they start avoiding people, they stay at home. This is a very common phenomenon, especially seen among Indian kids, because we've got a very big economic gap. Within a same class, there are different types of people. One person is so rich that he can afford a whole lot of things and he posts them on Facebook, and in the same class, there is another person who cannot afford all those kind of things, and he just sees his friends enjoying, and then he becomes anxious, he becomes depressed, he loses his self-esteem, he becomes antisocial, stays at home, does not socialize with other people, does not mingle with them. In fact, his entire quality of life goes down. It's a very bad effect. And then, apart from aggressiveness and things like that, there's another problem, narcissism. People want to look good all the time so that they can take photographs of themselves and post on Facebook. Narcissism, self-love, loving yourself, that you want to look good all the time, you want to have the best clothes, you want to have the best gadgets, you want to have the best life. So this is another very important thing. Let me tell you one thing, that this entire idea of mass media that we have can be traced back to one particular psychiatrist named Edward Bernays way back in 1900s to 1920s. He was a master psychiatrist. He thought that people can be modified, the behavior of people can be modified by putting up advertisements. And the kind of advertisement that we see, that force us to look at it, that develop love for that product in our minds, all these ideas were taken from Edward Bernays. Now, advertisements show people who are unrelated to us, either film stars or somebody whom we respect, and then he endorses a particular product and we want to use it. It's a very powerful medium. But imagine when your own friends, when people who are closer to you, when people whom you know and relate to, when they use certain products and post their photographs on the Facebook, post their enjoyment of certain things. It's a much more powerful advertisement tool, don't you think? It's a much more powerful advertisement tool, and that's why we are having this lifestyle crisis. People want to have a particular kind of a fantasy lifestyle, fanciful lifestyle, which is not possible in this world, but they just want to achieve it. Another problem. And then coming to another problem that is common in the Indian context is the issue of premarital chattings between the fiancés. Two people who are engaged, they start chatting on the net. It's a very common practice. It's become so common that people have even stopped considering it to be bad. They even stopped considering it to be bad. It's so commonplace. I don't know what can be done to actually prevent something like this, but then it's a reality. And the social networking sites, all those chatting tools that you have on the net, all these things are facilitating it. I don't know if this is going to spill over into something much more worse, because in our community, the social pressures of the community have checked certain things. It's still, I must say, not very easy to do something that is grossly wrong in a Muslim society, even in India. But then when you take when you take the lid off, when you take the control mechanisms of the society away, then it happens. Everybody starts getting involved into things that are wrong. And now, talking about Facebook usage, honestly, I would like to ask a question. How many people sitting here in this hall sleep before 12 o'clock every day? You can just put your hands. So I can assume that the remaining people stay up late in the night. A very common problem. Very common problem. How many people present here in the past 1 week have seen the sunrise? Sunrise is a beautiful view. Ever seen it? In the past 1 week, how many of you have seen the sunrise? Very small minority of people. And how many of you have checked your status updates in the past 24 hours? A huge number again, the same number of, more than the number of people who have seen sunrise. So you see how our behavior is getting modified, how we are becoming addicted towards it. So now that makes things very clear of how much into the thick of things our community is. And another problem is, I have been told that a lot of people maintain double profiles. Double profiles on Facebook, double profiles on Orkut. One is your public profile and the other is your hidden secret profile. So it's supposed to be a very common thing. And it's obvious because the number of people who have a computer in India is so less. And the number of profile users on Facebook and Orkut is huge. What does it mean? That a person is having multiple profiles, not just two, maybe many. So this two-facetedness, it's a sign, it's a sure sign of hypocrisy. It's a sure sign of hypocrisy. Numerous places in the Quran, the hypocrites have been warned that they come to Muslims and they say we believe, and then they go back to their own people and they said we were only joking. So this is exactly what is happening. You know, person is divided into two different personalities. At one point of time, he's a very upright and straight person, and on the other hand, he's a person who is into everything, who is enjoying himself. So this is another problem. And then when I'm talking about the open profile, the so-called public profile in which you do everything good. Now what does this show? This shows riyakari. This is showing off. Even if you are doing something good, you want to put it on the Facebook. See, I performed Umrah. That's it. You know, in fact, I was shocked to see this. One person, Ramzan started, we saw the crescent, and his Facebook status update was Ramzan mode on. That's it. So Ramzan mode is on, and from then on, posting photographs of Taraweeh prayers, posting photographs of all iftar parties that he's attending, all sharing ahadith and everything. And then it's the day of Eid, Chandrat, you have offered Eid prayers, even that photograph has come, and after that, you got a review of the film Bodyguard that he has watched first day first. Ramzan mode, off. Double lives. There is no consistency in your behavior, there is no consistency. So when you talk about a medium like this, it's not a very good source of dawah. Dawah becomes very hollow, it becomes very shallow, it becomes useless when it's inconsistent. When you cannot back your words by your actions, there's no weight of your dawah, there's no weight of your words. This happens. It's another problem. And now, I have mentioned things, in fact I have missed a lot of things probably. I have mentioned gossip, I have mentioned time wasting, time, another very important thing. And then how we have become addicted to net. One very important dua which Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us. He said, Allahumma inni a'udhu min al-hammi wal-hazn. Allah Ta'ala, prevent me from hammi wal-hazn, from anxiety and from sadness. Wal-kasli wal-jubn, from laziness and from cowardice. Now, what do you think? You think you are doing a great monumental work sitting behind a computer screen and tapping away? That's not the use of your life. It's laziness. It's the definition of laziness. Go out and do something. Get onto the street and do something. In fact, when I was at school, we had a very experienced teacher who used to say, when you are teenagers, you have a lot of pent-up energy within you. And when you don't find a source, when you don't find an outlet for this, it spoils your life. What's the solution? Go out, play a game, sweat somewhat, spend some energy, burn some calories. That's probably a better use of your time and better use of your body. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he has prayed to save me from kasl wal jubn, from laziness and from cowardice. Imagine the word jubn, cowardice, is quite similar to the word jubna. Have you heard of it? Cheese. It means cheese in Arabic. Sitting in front of the computer, not using our muscles, we are becoming soft like cheese. We are becoming cowards. So when you do something more physical, something more useful, probably you'll be a better person. So this is just a part of the dua. And then I'm reminded of one very important message that a friend of mine, I really respect him, he said that a lot of people these days want to do dawah on the Facebook. That Facebook profiles are coming up talking about monotheism, talking about things, talking about quotations from the Rig Veda, Khand 3, Parv 3, Adhyaya 3, everybody knows that. And then he says, the streets are looking deserted because da'is are not there. There's no one to do dawah on the street. What percentage of population uses Facebook in India? Very small percentage. Majority of people are poor. Majority of people are living below the poverty line, in fact. If you actually can afford a computer, if you have a net connection at your home, I think you are in the top 3% of the economic bracket. Just top 3%. The remaining 97%, who's going to do the dawah to them? If you think your responsibility of doing dawah ends with Facebook, bahut saam khayali hai. It's a very immature kind of a thing. And now, I have spoken about a lot of problems. Let's talk about the solution to this. What can be solution to the social networking that we can take from Islam? Draw a parallel between social networking and something that existed during Hudur Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's time. What could it be? Simple communication. People used to talk to communicate. Now we are using Facebook probably. So what were the rules and regulations that guided people's conduct back then? In a very beautiful hadith, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he passed upon a group of people who were sitting on the corner, nukkad, and they were discussing. And he told them, do not sit here. And then they responded by saying that we have to sit here because this is here we sit and discuss. Where we sit and talk about things, we talk about issues, we talk about plans, we don't talk about Islam. That was the answer of the Sahaba. Very strong parallel from our online social networks. You come there to discuss. You come there to exchange ideas. This is what they were doing on the street. Then Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that you are permitted to do it, provided you protect the rights of the way. ये जो रास्ते के हुकूक हैं, ये जो नुक्कड़ की जो रोड के हुकूक हैं, इनको अगर आप अदा कर देंगे, if you are able to observe the rights of the way, you are permitted to do it. And then the Sahaba asked him, what are the rights of the way? And then he gave them 4 points. He said, right of the way is one, to lower your gaze. First right of the way is to lower your gaze, not to gaze upon members of the opposite sex. Because these are the arrows of the shaitan. Once they start poisoning your heart, there's hardly any going back. One, lowering your gaze. Draw a parallel on Facebook, that's it. You are not going to make any useless friendships on Facebook or Twitter just for having fun. I chose one particular ayah before I started my discussion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ. We are the ones who have created human beings. وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ. And he knows what his self, what his innermost soul whispers into him. وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And we are closer to him than your jugular vein. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closer to us than even our jugular vein that's here. So there is no escaping the fact. Why you are on Facebook, why you are doing that particular thing at that particular time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows very well. And then he says, إِذْ يَتَلَخِيَ الْمُتَلَخِيَانِ عَنِ الْيَمِينِ وَعَنِ الشِّمَالِ قَعِيدٍ. And then there are people who are recording things sitting on your right hand, sitting on your left. These are the two angels who are recording. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا يَلْفَظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ. And you do not utter a word, you do not say a single word that is recorded by these people. Raqibun Atid, they are very close to you. Atid, and they are alert, they don't miss a single word. Everything is being recorded. Accountability. That's the biggest thing that you can have. If you have accountability, you can create a firewall around you. You can prevent yourself from all those kind of evils. So the right of the way, first is gaze. Second, returning people's greetings, meaning being polite, being good to people. So this encompasses all sorts of manners. All sorts of manners. You're not going to make fun of someone. You're not going to backbite about someone. You're not going to speak ill of a person behind his back. You're not going to, exhibit a person's weaknesses in front of others. All these things. Good manners. And then the third right of the way was advocating good and forbidding evil. If you're on the way, you want to sit by the wayside, then you have to enjoin that which is good. You have to call people towards doing things that are good, and you have to forbid them from doing things that are wrong. So imagine this on Facebook. Now I told you about a lot of sources where you can actually enjoin good, forbid evil, make good friends on social networking sites, friends who will share Islamic information with you, friends who will correct you if you are doing something wrong, friends who will be a bulwark against any sort of mental problem that you are beginning to get. Have those kind of friends. And there are certain groups, there are some very good Islamic groups, beautiful groups on Facebook and Orkut where you can join, discuss things. Another very important problem, flip side that I missed while talking about social networking is the controversial religious discussions. This is a huge topic. A person who is a non-Muslim, he wants to study about Islam, and he goes to a social web page, he is more likely to find Shias and Sunnis fighting. He is more likely to find Deobandis and Bareilwis at loggerheads. He is more likely to find people from one school of thought speaking ill of other school of thought. And breeding extremism, polarizing the community. This is a very bad thing that's happening. And youngsters, especially in an age where they want to know, where they are inquisitive, they are being exposed to all these things. They are becoming very confused. So this is the worst use of social networking site that you can make. You are making a mockery, you are making a joke out of Islam. And these things are happening. So this is a very bad thing. So I'm telling you, join those good groups that make you objective, that open your mind, that make you think about Islam, that make you study. But then remember, study has to be done in this real world. It cannot be done virtually. You read about the Quran, you like a particular ayat, go back to the Quran, open a book, read it, or go ask the scholars, go discuss with them in real life. And then if you want to do dawah, fine, you can spread message on the Facebook, but come back to the field, speak to the people, person who is sitting next to you in the class, talk to him. That's more important, and that's more proper dawah. And now, we Muslims have one major problem with anything. When an invention comes, and it becomes widespread, and we see a lot of youngsters going after it, we start crying. This happened, that happened, now our youngsters are going down, things like that, problems are happening. We have never been forerunners of anything. We have never started any revolution. We have never made any innovations ourselves. Connecting people on a social networking site was a need. People needed to be connected. And Muslims did not take this idea. The idea had to come from Mark Zuckerberg. And when Mark Zuckerberg invents Facebook, he'll invent it the way he wants it. Why should he take care about what Muslims want? And that's why we see on Facebook, there was a very, horrific incident where somebody opened a page saying, everybody draw Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, na'uz billah. Where people posted pictures saying that, okay, I'll draw Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam like this, na'uz billah. It happened on Facebook. May 20th, 2010, that was the day. And because of that, a lot of people protested against it. A lot of people, even deactivated their accounts from it. In fact, Facebook was banned for about 2 months in Pakistan because of this particular thing. And in preparation for this particular program, when I went to Facebook, I actually searched for that everybody draw Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I wanted to know how it is, whether it still exists. And believe me, the 15 searches that I got on my first page, they were like against Draw Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam Day, against anti-Islamic Day, and then it means a lot of Muslims have used this particular medium to a very good effect. Everybody read Maulana Maududi Day, so they have made these kind of days. So they have put it to a good use. And that particular page, I couldn't find it. Probably it's been deleted. I couldn't find it on Facebook. So people want to know if there's a particular fatwa, if there's any opinion of standard scholars on social networking. Remember one thing, even though it may come with a flawed philosophy, an invention is innocent. Remember that. Invention is innocent. Talking about knife, the person who invented the knife might have invented it to kill someone. It's possible. But the knife is innocent. You may use it to kill someone. On whom is the blame? The killer, not on the knife. So you cannot blame an invention for what it is. Either you create something better than that, or you use it in the right direction. Only two things, only two solutions. And this is the opinion I have received from a few scholars who have analyzed this issue, saying that the whole internet can be put to a very bad use. But it doesn't mean that all of you run away from it. It doesn't mean that we just leave the ground empty for all Islamophobic and anti-Islamic people to rule over there. We do not run away from it. We want to stay over there and make sure that even there our voice is heard, our opinions are heard. That's another purpose that we can do. So as such, it's not haram. It's not been declared haram by anyone. But then there are a lot of things that are haram in social networking. And that you should question your own conscience. Ask yourself before every click, before everything that you do, is this liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this going to be recorded? One person is going there writing, okay fine, profile being opened, wow, everything is being recorded. So when you have the accountability, you're not going to do it. So that's a very good direction. And now that we know that it's not exactly haram, do I recommend it? Do I actually recommend people to log on to Facebook if they are not? Life is living in this real world. You're not going to die if you're not on Facebook. If you can actually resist the temptation of logging in, by all means, that's probably better if you don't log in. There are lots of my friends who don't use Facebook and they are pretty happy. There's no reduction in the quality of life. In fact, there's reduction in my quality of life if I waste too much time on Facebook. And then, one very important suggestion, if you have already made some bad friendships over social networking sites, when is the best time to end it? It's now. It's now. There's no other time. You know, Facebook has one very good application, that if you remove somebody from your friends list, that person will not know. That person won't know. It's a part of their positive approach. Like for example, you come to know that somebody has removed you from their friends list, you feel bad. So they didn't want that to happen. So they have removed that notification. So if you remove somebody from the Facebook, that person is not going to feel bad because they're not going to know. They've got 300 plus friends, one person missing, they're not even going to notice it. If you have made any bad friendships, wallahi brothers, do it now. Remove those friendships. They're not going to help you in any way. Akhirat is more important. The hereafter is more important. What few inconveniences that you face here, definitely they don't hold any importance, any weight. So with that, I have pretty much covered most of the pros and cons of Facebooking. And Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has taught us some very good prayers and du'as that help us in times when we are in confusion. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِمَّا يَنْزَغَنَّكَ الشَّيْطَانِ وَإِمَّا يَنْزَغَنَّكَ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ نَزْغٌ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. When there is a chance that you are being attacked by the shaitan, when you are being enticed by him, when he's pulling you towards himself, what should you do? فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. Seek refuge with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Say, أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. That's the best dua that you can do. أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ. You are taking refuge with a person who is much more powerful than all these tools of the shaitan that are around. So that's the first message. And secondly, there's a very beautiful dua that Rasulullah has taught us. Allahumma tahhir al-qalbi min al-nifaq. Oh Allah, purify my heart from nifaq, from hypocrisy, from double-facedness, from the problem of multiple profiles. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika. Allahumma tahhir al-qalbi min al-nifaq. Part 1. Wa amali min al-riya. Oh Allah, purify my actions from riyakari, from showing off. Wa a'yunina min al-khiyana. Purify my gaze from khiyana, from stealing. You know, you steal a glance, You think nobody is watching? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. And this dua says, Allahumma tahir ayunina min al-khiyana. Purify my gaze from khiyana, from stealing those glances. Walisani min al-kazib. And purify my tongue from falsehood, from everything that is wrong. A beautiful dua that covers pretty much everything. With that message, I would like to conclude my talk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us all safe from all different arrows that shaitan is firing towards us. May Allah make us capable of using even these media for spreading the message of Islam. May Allah keep us safe from all the evil things that are there in it. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Oh Allah, show us the things that are right as right. You know, it's a very important thing to see something that is right as right. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah, and show me right things as right and make me follow them. Wa arina al-batila batilan, when I see falsehood, oh Allah, make me see that as falsehood. Warzuqna ijtinaba, and make me stay away from it. That's a very beautiful dua. And with that dua, I conclude my speech. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين.